2D breakout game using Phaser. In this step-by-step tutorial, we create a simple mobile MDM breakout game written in JavaScript using the Phaser framework. So this is the difference. We're going to be using this framework. As you can see, this is the at phaser.io. So this is the framework that we are going to be using. Okay, every step has editable live samples available to play with, so you can see what the intermediate stage should look like. You will learn the basic of using Phaser framework to implement fundamental game mechanics like rendering and moving images, collision detection, control mechanics, framework specific helper functions, animations, and twins, that is short for betweens, and winning and losing states. To get the most of this series of articles, you should already have the basic intermediate JavaScript knowledge. After working through this tutorial, you should be able to build your own simple web games with Phaser, and this is pretty much a peek of what we're going to be building. So we have this game, we have the points, we have the lives, we have the bricks, we have the ball, and we have the paddle. And again, we're just pretty much going to be building this game. It's going to be a little bit cooler, but we're going to use a framework. So the lesson details, all the lessons and the different versions of the MDM breakout game we are building together are available on GitHub, so you can check that out. So this is in GitHub. And what else do we have here? So as a note on learning path, starting with pure JavaScript is the best way to get a solid knowledge of web game development. If you are not familiar with pure JavaScript game development, we suggest you to check out the 2D breakout game using pure JavaScript that we already did. After that, you can pick any frame that you want. So that's all that they have. Now let's jump into the initializing the framework. Okay, so initialize the framework. This is the first of the 16 tutorials to learn how to use the game dev Phaser. Okay, after completing this tutorial, you can find the source code for this in the game Phaser demos. So this is the GitHub repository, and you can check it out. There's gonna be 16 lessons. This is the lesson number 1, and we can also go into the demos. Okay, before we can start writing the game's functionality, we need to create a basic structure to render the game inside. This can be done using HTML. The Phaser framework will generate the required canvas elements. So the game's HTML, the HTML document structure is quite simple, as the game will be rendered entirely on the canvas element generated by the framework. Using your favorite text editor, create a new HTML document, save it as index.html file and a sensible notation, and add the following code. Okay, so that's what we are gonna do, and I'm gonna go into my folder here, and I'm just gonna name it game Phaser, like that, game Phaser. Okay, so let me see, and I'm just gonna copy this HTML. Okay, but first of all, game Phaser is already here, so we're gonna right click, open in terminal, and I'm gonna type code space that. Okay, so that's gonna open it in Visual Studio Code. Okay, that's fine, and we need to create an index.html file. So index.html file, index.html. Okay, and we're gonna copy this HTML, and while we are here, I'm gonna create a main.js file as well. Okay, so we have a basic HTML file, nothing out of the extraordinary. So I'm just gonna right click and then open with live server. Okay, and there's nothing obviously, but we have the title, game Phaser workshop. Okay, so we have that up to this point, and inside of the head we have the meta char set to UTF-8. We have the title, game dev Phaser workshop lesson 1, initialize the framework. Then we have the style. So, and again, we can also create a CSS a CSS file, but we can just, since we're using a little bit of CSS, we can just write it inside of the HTML file. So we do that with using the style element. We use asterisk, then we open curly braces, and we have the padding of 0 and margin of 0. So that's our style. Then we have the script. The script is going to be set to the source js/phaser.min.js. So that's fine up to this point. Don't worry about it. We're going to look this into in a little bit. But here we have another source, but this is inside of the body. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this whole Okay, so this constant declaration game, and then these three functions. So I'm gonna cut it. And I'm gonna go into my main.js that I have here, and I'm gonna pretty much paste it here. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna save it. Okay, so now the second script, pretty much I'm gonna add a source like this, and I'm just gonna name it main. So that's the name of my file that I just created. But now we have this JavaScript file phaser that mean.js, and this is the framework. So let's continue reading here. Okay, let me see. Downloading the phaser code. Next, we need to go through the process of downloading the phaser source code and applying it to our HTML document. This tutorial uses phaser v2. It won't work with the current version of the phaser v3, so again we're gonna use the phaser v2, not the v3. The v3 is the current one, but for the sake of this tutorial we're gonna use the v2, the version v2. The v2 library is still available on the phaser download page below the links for the v3 download. Okay, so go to the phaser download page. This is the one, and we can make it bigger. Okay, so as you can see we have phaser 3.60.0, so we are not gonna download this one. We're gonna download the phaser, they don't say it specifically, but it's gonna be this one. It's gonna be the version 2.4.2. so we're gonna have this version. We're gonna work with the phaser 2.4.2 Altara. Okay, so that's one option. Okay, choose an option that suits you best. We recommend the main.js option as it keeps the source code smaller and you are unlikely to go through the source code anyway. Please make sure to use the phaser version 2, okay, as was this tutorial was written for. Okay, save the phaser code in the JS directory in the same location as your index.html file. Okay, and update the source. Update your source value in the first script element as shown above. So first of all, we have two choices. We can pretty much download this phaser 2.4.2, or you can go into the GitHub repository. You can go into demo, so you click demo, and okay, so you click into demo, and we're gonna have this. We're gonna go into the JS folder, and from here you can just pretty much copy and paste this whole code, and you can name it phaser 2.4.2 main.js. so we can do that, or we can just download this one. So it's up to you, but yeah, that's up to you. So this is the code that they're using in this GitHub repository, so we can just pretty much just copy it and pretty much create a file here. We're gonna name it, let me see, what is the name here? Okay, so we're gonna name it, they say what is gonna be in there. Okay, so the name is already here. It's gonna be phaser that, okay, it's gonna be this one. I'm gonna create a new file here, so it's gonna be the phaser that, yeah, like that, and I'm just gonna leave it like that. It's not gonna be inside of a folder, it's just gonna be in my root. So it's gonna be phaser that main.js. so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna, let me see, yeah, whatever option do you want. So you can just copy this whole code here, just copy raw file and pretty much paste it here like that. Okay, so save it, or you can go into the, make sure that is the phaser version 2.4.2 and just click in main.js. so I'm just gonna click it for the sake of clicking it, so it's downloading it. Okay, and okay, so it has downloaded, so I can go into my downloads and I already have this file here. Okay, so I can use this file or the one that I just pretty much copy this whole code from the GitHub repository, so it's up to you. Okay, so let's see if it has changed a little bit. Okay, okay, it has changed a little bit. So this is the code, and we have a big this black window here, so we have nothing because we haven't written any code yet, so but yeah, let me double check in the index.html file. So we have this script is set to this phaser.min.js, and then we have this another JavaScript file, the main.js. And again, in this main.js file we only have this constant declaration name game, and we are setting it to this key, to this new key, to the new keyword new, and then we're using phaser.game, and then we're passing variables. So it's gonna be the number 480, 320, the phaser.canvas, null, and finally we're having an object with preload, create, and update. Okay, and these are functions. So below we have the functions preload, the function create, and the function update. So we have that up to this point. Okay, so update the source. Okay, update the source value on the first script element as shown above. Okay, that's fine. Walking through what we have so far. At this point we have a char set defined. Okay, so they're talking about the HTML file. So this, we have our char set defined, is defined to the UTF-8. Okay, we have the title. Okay, as you can see we have the title somewhere here, this one. Okay, we have the title, game, phaser, workshop, lesson 01, initialize the framework. Okay, what else do we have? Let me check. So we have some basic CSS and the header to reset the default margin and padding. So we already talked about it. So we have it's inside of the style element, and the padding is set to 0, and the margin is set to 0 as well. We also have a script element to apply the phaser source code to the page. So yeah, we have this one is the second script that is inside of the head, and is set to the phaser.min.js, and I have it right here, this file. Okay, phaser code to the page. The body contains a second script element where we will write the JavaScript code to render the game and control it. So you can do that. So you can write your JavaScript file inside of the HTML file, or as I'm doing it right now, pretty much having the source and then the name of the JavaScript file that we're gonna be writing our JavaScript here. So I'm gonna have my JavaScript in a separate file. Okay, so that's pretty much it. The canvas element is generated automatically by the framework. We are initializing it by creating a new phaser.game object. So phaser.game object, so we're talking about this one. So we're having the phaser.game, this is an object. Okay, so a new phaser.game object, and assigning it to the game variable. The parameters are the width and the height to the set the canvas to. Okay, so we have the width and the height, so 480, 320. Okay, the rendering method. The three options are auto, canvas, and WebGL. We can set one of the latter to explicitly, or use auto to let phaser decide which one to use. It usually uses WebGL if available in the browser, falling back to Canvas 2D if not. The ID of the canvas to use the rendering if one already exists on the page. We have a specified null because we want phaser to create its own. The names to use for phaser's three key functions that load and start the game and update the game loop on every frame. We will use the same names to keep it clean. So we're gonna have the preload, so they're talking about the preload, create and update. So preload takes care of preloading the assets. Create is executed once when everything is loaded and ready, and finally update is executed on every frame. So now compare your code. Here's the full source code of the first lesson. So this was the first lesson, and there's pretty much not much code here, but yeah, you can check it out right here in this web documents here, or you can go into the GitHub repository. So we already went here. Let me see, it was the phaser, no, it was back. Okay, so you can just click here, it's gonna send you to the GitHub repository, and you can double check your code here. Okay, so but that's all that we have for the initialize the framework. So now we're gonna move straight to the next chapter, that is gonna be scaling. So this is the second step of the 16 game dev phaser tutorial. You can find the source code as it should look after completing. So again, you can check out, you can click here, and it's gonna give you this the GitHub repository for lesson 2. Okay, so we have that. What else do we have here? So scaling refers to how the game canvas will scale on different screen sizes. We can make the game scale to fit on any screen size automatically during the preload stage, so we don't have to worry about it later. The phaser scale object. There's a special scale object available in phaser with a few handy methods and properties available. Update your existing preload function as follows. So let's see what we have here. We have this function preload. Okay, let's keep it some space. So we have this function named preload, and inside of the curly braces we are gonna have in the game that is scale, like that, game that is scale, and then it's gonna be a scale mode. That is scale mode, camel notation, and we are gonna set it to the phaser. We're gonna set it to the phaser that scale. Okay, that is scale manager, and after the phaser it has to be with uppercase letters. So scale manager, phaser that is scale manager. We're gonna open parentheses. Oh no, no parentheses. We're gonna have that show all. So that show underscore all semicolon at the end. Okay, then we're gonna have we're gonna use game that, and it's gonna be a scale that is gonna be page align horizontally. So it's gonna be page align, let me see, align, and then horizontally. So okay, horizontally. Okay, that's fine. We're gonna set it to this boolean true, and finally we're gonna have the game that is scale, that, and it's gonna be page align, and it's gonna be vertically. Okay, so pale, no, it's page. Okay, page align vertically, and it's gonna be set to, let me see what boolean is gonna be set to the boolean true, semicolon at the end. Okay, so we have updated our code, and it has moved. As you can see, now it's in the center. Okay, so that's fine up to this point. Okay, so we have this function named preload, and we are passing in the game that is scale mode, and we are setting it to the phaser that is scale manager that show all, as well as game that is scale that page align horizontally set to true, and then finally the game that is scale that page align vertically, and then set to the boolean true. Scale mode has a few different options available for how the canvas can be scaled. So no underscore scale, nothing is scale, exact underscore fit, scale the canvas to fill all the available space both vertically and horizontally without preserving the aspect ratio. Show underscore all scales the canvas but keeps the aspect ratio untouched. The images won't be skewed like in the previous mode. There might be black stripe visible on the edges of the screen, but we can live with that. Okay, that's cool. Resize, create the canvas with the same size as the available width and height, so you have to place the objects inside your game dynamically. This is more of an advanced mode. Okay, user underscore scale allows you to have custom dynamic scale, calculating the size, scale and ratio on your own. Again, this is more of an advanced mode. Now, the other two lines of code and the preload function are responsible for aligning the canvas element horizontally and vertically, so it is always centered on the screen regardless of the size, and that is the reason it's centered this black. Okay, so adding a custom canvas background color. We can also add a custom background color to our canvas so it won't stay black. The stage object has a background color property for this purpose, which we can set using the CSS color defining syntax at the following line below the other three you added earlier. So okay, so we're gonna go below, and okay, or I can just go here and just name a game that, and it's gonna be a stage that background color. So it's gonna be a stage that, let me see, background color, and we are gonna set it to this now, to this color, semicolon at the end. Okay, so let me see. Let me see. This is right. So we have the game, that stage, that background color, and we are setting it to the number sign triple E. Okay, so let me refresh it, and as you can see, it has changed. So you can play around here. Maybe you can, I don't know, A52, I guess, or A51. Okay, area 51, whatever. Okay, so we have that, but let's just leave it in the number sign triple E. Okay, so we have that up to this point. And yeah, compare your code. You can check the finished code for this lesson in the live demo below and play with it to understand better how it works. So we have this little piece of code up to this point, and you can pretty much check out the entire code in the Gain the Phaser Content Key Demos Lesson 2 and the GitHub repository. But this is all that we have up to this point.